I've tried making this video. It's all crazy and rambling, so here we go, rambling again. Uh, the last video, Country Boy, I was down at the Pink House for 4 days, and during that time, on Thursday night, there was a Cosmic Conversations group held by the Wish Alliance folks, Sheila Seppi and the other founders of it. So it was really good. They had a special guest speaker, Mary Rodwell, on. She had about an hour-long presentation or so, and it actually got streamed live on YouTube under Portal to Ascension. I'm going to put a link below in the description to that, so check it out if you like. The thing it did for me is really solidify me, that I'm not crazy. She's interviewed a lot of people, a lot of kids, and came up with these star children, these starseed types, and traits that they all have in common, things like this. And she's going through all of this, and it's like, yep, 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 yeah, I get it, I get it, I get it all. Anyway, here's one still shot from the attendees, and in this one you'll see my name kind of around the middle of the screen. Mary's got her green highlight around her screen because she is the main speaker. In me, my face is so dark because I'm sitting on the porch of the Pink House, and it's getting dark outside, and I stay out there instead of coming inside because my uncle and his religious past, this really would conflict with him really bad, I think, and I don't want to aggravate anything along those lines. So I would sit outside on the porch for these kind of meetings if I'm there, and I was there. Eventually I turned the camera off, and so you won't see me on the guest screen anymore because I've turned my camera off. But starting out, here's a clip showing me, and the person below me down here on the bottom right is Phil Gruber. That is my mentor, Phil Gruber. Now, even during the guest, at the very end of that entire presentation, the guest asked questions, and a lot of them were relevant. At one point, Hildegard asked a question and said, you mentioned about kids being able to see through other people's eyes. I'm like, I talked about that in one of my videos, being able to see through other people's eyes. I talked about that. It's like, yep, there's another one. Click, there's another one. At another one, Carl spoke up and asked, because he had these kind of abilities, gifts, this type of star child, starseed things, and apparently was recognized by the government or the deep state or whatever you call it, these dark forces on the planet, and was taken into a program and used this way. And he was asking, are there other children that are able to get out of this or not be found? And Mary spoke up and says, yeah, there are some kids better at protecting themselves. And I remember me as a very young child, my big thing was hiding. I've mentioned that in videos before. My specialty, if I had one, was hiding. I did not want to be found by these people. I knew these people were out there. There were people like that out there, and my specialty was hiding from them so they could not find me. That was my big deal. And they said it. Some kids are better at protecting themselves from being grabbed like that. And I'm like, wow. Wow. Just wow. Just wow. Anyway, also, another thing, the guest panelists there at the end had asked a question, and Mary spoke up and said, yes, there is something happening currently. A lot of these kids that are grown up like this are now being activated. They're being told to put out their messages now. Do it now kind of thing. And this isn't just in the like last couple of months or anything. This is like in the last 5 years or so. They're being activated and told to do this. And I mentioned in my videos that in 2019, mid-2019, I started getting these impressions telling me, put videos out of my experiences. And I ignored it. And then toward the end of 2019, it added a bit to the end saying, do it now. And the do it now got very insistent and loud. Put videos out of your experiences, do it now. So it's like, oh, yeah, okay, fine. And that's the reason this whole BitChute site came about, was because of that insistence. And I was terrified. I mean, I didn't know anybody else like me existed. I thought I was alone. I thought I was putting out these videos for a family member. You know, I did not know these other people existed. And then by doing this, I found all of them. And I've got all these videos out explaining about these different weirdness with me, which apparently matches, I mean, it matches what Mary is talking about with all these other Star Childs and Starseed type people with these weird things about them. So check out that video or below with Portal to Ascension. Oh, here's a clip. Actually, I hope it works. I took my phone and took a little video clip of Mary's answer to them, and I'll put it right here.
So I think there is a timeline, and I think this timeline is now where people are that would never have dreamed of talking about this 10, even 5 years ago or 10 years ago, are now feeling impelled to write their story or talk about their story or own their truth. And that's why I say I think that disclosure is going to come from us, and it really is challenging us to speak our truth, which is one of the things that, you know, I talk to those that come to me is, when are you going to, you know, be who you are and why, you know, the person that you've come here to be? Because while we're still fitting around other people's limits and judgments and what have you, we're actually being afraid of being who we are.
I'm going to quickly go over a couple other things. I had to print out a page. I tried. I don't know how to do all the video editing and talking over a picture-in-picture. I don't know how to do all that. I've got this iPhone here I'm recording on. That's all I know how to do. And I have to delete the videos off afterwards because I don't have SIM cards or cameras or all this fancy stuff. I don't know how to do all that. So I'm just talking to you. I mean, I'm just rambling and talking. But this one here is just a photo clip I printed from the presentation linked below. And it says the Starseed profile. One of them is access to knowledge and information they have not consciously learned. I talked about that. Planes of existences, quantum stuff, that kind of thing. Weird, really weird things. Often feel alien to this planet. Intelligent, intuitive, telepathic in some instances. May write unusual scripts. That was me. I had that light language stuff up there, and I said, this is a script that I wrote. I wrote this kind of script. I mean, it was just natural. You just write it. Just pages and pages and pages. And I just write it. Perceived spirits or ETs, both physical and non-physical. And I have talked about that in a lot of my videos, seeing these other beings on these other planes of existences. And I've talked about that. And that is one of the things. Here, you don't believe me? Can you see that? Perceived spirits or ETs, blah, 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 whatever that says. I hope that's not backwards. I don't know how it comes on camera. Healing abilities are perceptions, empathic. Some communicate with animals. I'm thinking communicate with animals lately. That last video, that butterfly flying around my head. The other one on Country Boy, the bird landing on my forehead, just sitting there. It's like, seriously. Anyway, I don't know about that. Animals, she's all over me all the time. And it talks about the cosmic syllabus is another one that I just clicked. I started putting notes here. I was going to try to put it on the screen. I didn't know how to do that. But one of the things that some of these kids come out like this, these star children come out, seem to have learned some stuff about quantum physics and the holographic nature of the universe. And I have talked about that. Like in my Strange Happening 64, Rambling with My Tea, I talk about that. I really do. The non-linear nature of time and space, I've talked about that in several of them. Being from outside of time, seeing this entire existence as a bubble of time. You can see everything at once. I've talked about that. Taught how to communicate or interpret and interact with interdimensional and other non-human intelligence. And I mentioned that I talked to both sides. I talked to these entities that I see out there. And it's not just one type of entity. It's multiple types of entities. And I talk to them. I've mentioned that. Out-of-body training, I've mentioned about astral travel. Telepathy, I've talked about telepathy. Oh, and on telepathy, she even put this one up. On hypercommunication, and I love this first part right here. Can you read that? I can't read backwards. They communicate with humans by telepathic transfer of mental images and concepts rather than by words and speech. So I mentioned that in my telepathy video, Strange Happening number 12. that I get images in my head. I get pictures in my head. It's not words. There's no sounds. It's not words. It's not speech. It's pictures. And that's what this is right here saying also. That's the way it works. It's pictures and concepts. It's like, yep, I get that. I totally get that. Working with energies, manifestations, directed thoughts, energies. Strange happening to find my coincidence. They're talking about things appear, things I want just appear. Things I need just appear. It's always worked like that. Very odd, very odd. Remote influencing is one on this. Remote influencing, the last one down there, remote influencing. I have a video out there, Strange Happening 78, I think it was, 78. Talking about influencing global consciousness kind of thing. It's like, that's right here. The true nature of source and the universal spirituality. I have that in multiple videos, 70, 83, multiple ones out there. Now, there is some on here that I don't really understand or get into. Well, the awareness and connection to all sentient life. I mentioned that. I saw the connection in everything, seeing everything as alive and connected. It took me a while with people because people have rejected me. And during the Great Conjunction, I started realizing the connection between people. So I pushed that one off as much as I could, and that's my fault for doing that. Now, there is one here on telekinesis. The deal with telekinesis is, I don't know if that was ever real for me or not, honestly. When we lived in that haunted house, the White House with red shutters, I saw the being outside the window. I felt protected inside the house. Believe it or not, she even talked about that she's talked to some of these star children, that there are these beings that come to them. And in one instance, one child said, yeah, they protected me and my family from these other beings out there. And I'm like, boy, do I get that. Boy, do I get that. So it's like, okay, I get that. I put that in my videos. I get that. God, I even got off track with that one because that one's a big deal with me personally. Telekinesis. But back then, things would move around the house. That's what we called a haunted house. Things would move. My mom, I've even got a video out there of my mother talking about seeing the doorknob turn and nobody's on the inside or outside. It freaked her out. And that was the deal with my mom. Sorry, Mom, if you see this. But back then, you really couldn't deal with all this. Now she can. She's much more open and understanding and is talking about more of this kind of stuff. But when Mom gets scared, she screams. And she screams loud and long. And as a little kid, you don't want to hear your mom scream. For the things moving, it wasn't just at our house. When she would drop us off at the babysitter's house, the babysitter would see things move on their own around her house while we were there. So this would happen when I was younger, wherever I was at. And I don't know if it was me or why or how. But if my thing is trying to hide, I don't want to be noticed. And maybe that had something to do with it. I am guessing at that. That is too long ago. I'm 57. That is too long ago for me to try to remember. And I'm not going to try to remember. There are things I don't want to remember. I just don't, because I'm moving forward. I'm not looking back. I am moving forward. So I'm just moving forward. It's time to remember. And I, believe it or not, I am remembering some weird things, which I might get into here in just a second. But anyway, things like that and that, which is in the link below for that presentation. If you want to watch it, you can watch it. Another slide you put up was the secret space school. And I mentioned how it was like being in a classroom in some of my instances. But that first part right there, remembering the journey outside of time, I just mentioned that. Remember I was outside of time, remembering that. The other part was that 9 lessons involved in the manipulation of time. I have a video out there that it's funny, I can't remember which one it is, but it's out there. I mentioned I was late going for cancer treatment, and my wife was like, just move everybody out of the way. You know how I can influence people, make them move out of the way, do that. She goes, well, make people move out of the way, get there faster. I'm like, okay, I'll try something. And what happened was time manipulated time. What should have taken me 15, 20 minutes to get there took all of 5 minutes. And not just to get there, driving at normal speed, not speeding, Parked the car, went to the front door, forgot my bottle of water, walked, not ran, walked back to the parking lot, opened my car, got the bottle of water, walked back in, and I'm there 10 minutes early. All of that took 5 minutes. Even the doctor's like, your wife called, said you'd be late, and you're 10 minutes early. When I got home, my wife's like, how did you do that? And I'm like, and I mentioned in the video, sometimes time works that way for me. Time speeds up and slows down. And I mentioned that in the video, and I said, I'm not going into it because that is just crazy talk, right? And then there it is in her presentation. I'm like, seriously. Whew, this is real. This is who and what I am. Only thing is, it's more than that. It is more than this. At the end, when people were asking questions, I wanted so bad just to say hello. And couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I think it's that fear of arrogance, becoming arrogant with it. I think that's a fear. And like, hey, look at me, look at me. And I just couldn't do it. I wanted to say hello, but I couldn't do it. It's a weird thing, I guess, because I've stayed hidden for so long for all my life that I think I'm going to have to be asked questions before I can talk about it. I can talk about it on this phone. There's nobody there. Nobody there. I'm just talking to a phone. But I think people will have to ask me questions for me to talk. I can't seem to volunteer information. I don't know. Fear maybe still. I don't know. Catchphrase, I don't know. There it is. Anyway, I mentioned something that I'm kind of starting to remember something. And I was showing my wife this video from Portal to Ascension, linked below. She was watching it, and I started remembering some things. And this isn't new knowledge. This is a memory. It's not anything Phil has taught me. It's not anything anybody's ever told me. Now, on here, one of the things for the Star Kids is teleportation, being able to teleport. And I started remembering. I remember teleporting. Only thing is, I don't remember if it was in this body or not. With this body or not, but I remember how to teleport. And it's just like, I remember. And what it is it's almost like being crazy. If you want to say split your mind into two almost. I've mentioned on some how seeing other places, and they're so real that I can practically smell the air. I can see it. I can close my eyes. I can see it in my mind. It is so real. I can almost touch it. I can feel the texture of the surroundings, the heat, the light, the smells. It is so real, it's anything. So here you are, standing here. Maybe you have your eyes closed and you're imaging in your mind this place here, and it's so real. But the difference is the split. It's the split. It's to have this, what you're seeing, in your mind, in your being, in your belief, in your knowing that this is your reality, not this one. This is where you started. But it's this. Perception creates reality, right? Perception creates reality. So with that perception, this, and you know that this is your new reality, this, where you came from, is your false reality, and it falls behind because that's fake. This is your real reality. And that's it. And you are there because that is your reality. And that's how it worked for me. I don't know. That's how it was. And the deal was, it's also simple. When I was in that form doing that, it's simple. It's like breathing. Everything is so simple. It's so stupidly simple that you'll never forget this. You can't forget this because it's so simple. It's like a human breathing. It is so simple. Or walking or whatever. It's simple. You do it without much thought. How could you forget something like that? And you do. How funny. That's just funny. Anyway, watch the video below if you want to see more about this. But hey, that kind of solidified everything for me as this presentation. There it is. There it all is.